Hello and welcome to the second in this occasional series of interviews where we are exploring the effects of the death of George Floyd a year ago. I am delighted to be joined today by Kalen Reid. Kalen is a third-year student here at York St John's. Kalen is also the BAME Liberation Officer and the chair of the LGBTQ plus Society, quite a mouthful for me at this time of day. I'm delighted to be chatting with you today, Kalen. So thank you for joining us. And my question to you is, how did the death of George Floyd affect you?
I think it was a journey, I think, because initially it was a headline. I hadn't watched the video, so it kind of just popped. I think it probably popped up on my phone. And I was sad and kind of shocked, but I also wasn't completely surprised. This is something that kind of keeps happening. So there was part of me that was kind of numb to it. I think then the video came to light and the video broke me completely. And it's hard, I think, with videos such as the George Floyd video, but like also Ahmaud Arbery, a lot of these videos come to light, and there's something about them, even though they're powerful, and especially for allies and people who aren't Black, they can be really powerful and mobilizing. But I think for Black individuals, they're really almost dehumanizing, because we're just seeing death, the death of Black people and the murder of Black people consistently, just playing over and over again. And so that kind of just broke me. In some ways, I couldn't kind of comprehend what was going on. And then with the Black Lives Matter stuff, kind of the mobilization was really positive. And it was a positive thing. And if you went to the protests, you kind of were surrounded by this rage and this vulnerability, but it was just still really, really hard. I think it impacted a way a lot of people spoke about Black people and Black communities. I kind of saw a shift in that. It divided a lot of people. There was, conversation about Black communities and police brutality are kind of really complex. And so there were a lot of, complex in the sense that people have strong feelings about it. Not complex in the sense of my feelings about it, but this kind of just constant fighting, arguing, antagonistic behavior from people. So it was a really hard time. I mean, as I'm sure it was for many, many people. Yeah.
So it's been a year now. Do you feel that your feelings have changed as the year has gone on? I mean, I appreciate that kind of lack of surprise, because tragically these stories, they haven't stopped with George Floyd, have they? This is still happening, and we still hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, with a year, it feels, it's been a year in general with everything that's going on. So we've had the coronavirus pandemic, we've had George Floyd, and all of these things, the recent race report from the government, which was just a shambles. And so I think it's been a really tough year for kind of Black communities and really kind of Asian communities, minority ethnic communities. If you were marginalized, it's been a really tough year for you in general. And I think as BAME officer, it's been positive to see the shift, especially within YSJ and higher education, and this focus on race equality, anti-racist work, decolonial work. And so it's been exciting to see the effects that it's had in that sense. But it's also, it's hard to use the positive terms such as exciting, and it's been good to see, because I can't justify that. There's no way that I can justify this as being any sort of positive, but just starting a conversation that needed to be had, but also a conversation that we've been trying to have for years and years and years. So it's just really mixed feelings, I think, really mixed feelings.
Yes, because at the root of this is the fact that a man died, and actually not just George Floyd, but he's become symbolic of all the people who have died in that way, and at other people's hands, and particularly at the hands of the police. So yeah, it is hard to be excited at change when we shouldn't have been here in the first place.
Yeah.
So since I started having these recorded conversations with people, we've had a verdict on Derek Chauvin, who has been convicted of murdering George Floyd. How has that affected you to actually get that verdict?
It's, again, it's like, it's weird. So this verdict, you know, I think there was a period where I wasn't engaged with kind of the media surrounding it and with the trial, because it felt like it was less of the trial of Derek Chauvin and more of the trial of George Floyd. But just before kind of the verdict was given, I wasn't engaged. And then obviously as we kind of got closer and closer to the jury coming to some sort of decision, I kind of had to bring myself back into focus. And so I remember kind of watching the verdict live and waiting and all of the discussions and seeing correspondence at George Floyd Memorial Square, and this really powerful kind of feeling. And it was this nerves, you're waiting for something. And I think I was prepared that it was going to be a not guilty verdict. I prepared myself for that because that's just the way it has been. There was nothing to prove to me that it, even despite having the video, there was still nothing to prove to me that we were going to get a guilty verdict. So when the verdict came through, it was really weird, because I thought I would feel happy and I would feel relieved, and that it just didn't come. It was like this, I was overcome with numbness. And I think I got a few messages being like, this is really good, like, aren't you excited, isn't this like, and I was like, I can't find any joy in this. I can't find joy in something that's rooted in the murder of someone. I can't find joy, I can't find joy in this because it shouldn't have happened. This isn't justice for anyone. It's not justice for George Floyd. Justice would be breath in his body, and him still walking about and being with his family. That would have been justice. We wouldn't be here. And I think there was also this, I think what annoyed me was this expectation that I and Black people everywhere needed to be grateful for this verdict, because why? And then there was a feeling of worry, I think, with a guilty verdict. Will the kind of progress and the mobilization within Black Lives Matter, will that stop? Because I was worried that people saw it as, this is what we wanted, this is what we've achieved, we've got it, we can move on, we can go back to life, this isn't it. Like, this is just the beginning of, well, I hope, but it should be the beginning of something more. I think I felt there was this something within me was like, I can't place everything on this verdict, because this verdict isn't going to change anything. This verdict is just the outcome of a trial. And it's actually up to, well, I mean, people in power, but also kind of people on the ground. It's up to us to continue the work that's going on. So I've said it multiple times, it was mixed. So it was really hard, I think. And then to have this guilty verdict come through, and then moments later hear of the death of Ma'Khia Bryant almost straight away, felt like we were back to square one. This was history changed with that verdict. Something big happened, and then almost instantaneously we were back to the same issue that we were in a year ago. It was like, it didn't even, there was no kind of transition period. There wasn't even like a period of calm. Straight away it happened. And again, straight away I kind of felt numb. There was nothing to feel. There was anger. I think that's what I felt. I felt anger and just immense sorrow for the families in all of this, for George Floyd's family, for Makia's family, for family, really. So it was just a really difficult verdict to hear, even though it was the right verdict. There was no doubt about that. I mean, I'm someone who has really strong opinions about police and prison and kind of abolition. And so those ideas conflicted, and it was just this whole big ball of emotion that I kind of couldn't unpick or untangle. And so it kind of just sat there feeling heavy, and I felt really heavy. That's the way I describe it. It's just feeling heavy.
Have you found in your role as BAME Liberation Officer, have you found that has sort of changed over the year, and with this court case looming, and then like that expectation, which I really hear what you're saying about this kind of expectation, oh, you should be grateful, it's gone the way you want, everything's, actually nothing is solved and nothing has changed unless everything changes, really, unless we really keep going and altering stuff. So I mean, as BAME Liberation Officer, have you found in your conversations and you're supporting people that there's a shift, or also that feeling of heaviness?
I think as BAME Liberation Officer, it's been interesting, because this is, like, as I said, this has brought about a lot of positive work that's being undertaken at YSJ, and some work that as a Black student I thought would never happen. So it's been interesting to see how that has developed. I think there's also been, from a really selfish point of view, an added level of pressure, because the BAME liberation position is one position. I'm one person, and I can't talk on the lived experience of other people. I can't. And so I felt like there's this increased pressure to get things right. And I am by no means perfect. I'm flawed in many ways. So I think, and I want to be able to do justice to George Floyd and all of the people that we're kind of breathing. And I want to do justice to all of the people at YSJ who rely on this work happening. So I'm excited about where it's going to take me, I think, and I'm excited about what can be done, but I'm also wary of the university and kind of the union again stopping and it kind of dying down. So I think part of me is worried about how to keep that going within YSJ. But I feel like there has been an increased level of awareness, which is positive. There is, people are a bit more aware, but there's just still so much work to be done.
So much to be done. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And tragically, we're out of time. It always goes so fast. Kalen, thank you so much for talking to us today, for your openness and for your vulnerability in talking about it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I will look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you.